Full story, forced into a second marriage. He discovered her secret child and walked away. True real-life story. Full script. One part forced into a second marriage. He discovered her secret child and walked away, leaving her broken. Approx. 2,100 words. Third person. Simple English. Some people enter marriage with butterflies in their stomach and a heart full of hope. And then there are people like Rayan. He entered marriage with a heavy chest and a quiet kind of resignation. The kind that comes not from weakness, but from a lifetime of putting others before himself. Rayan was 32 years old. He worked a steady job, lived a calm life, and honestly, he was doing just fine on his own. He was not the type to chase big dreams or make loud demands. He just wanted peace. A simple, honest life, that was all. But peace, it seemed, was not what his family had planned for him. His parents had been pushing him toward marriage for a couple of years. Not in an aggressive way. They were not the type to shout or fight. They were soft and persistent, which was almost harder to deal with. Every family dinner would somehow circle back to the same topic. Every phone call ended with his mother's gentle sigh. Every time a relative got married, someone would look at him with that knowing smile and say, "You're next, Rayan." He had brushed it off for as long as he could, but at some point, the weight of disappointing the people who raised him became too heavy to carry, so he agreed. The girl they had chosen was named Nadia. She came from a well-respected family, educated, well-mannered, polite. On paper, she was everything a family could want for their son. Rayan met her twice before the wedding, once at a formal family gathering, and once over tea at her parents' home. She was pleasant, quiet. She smiled at the right moments and said the right things. He did not fall in love. He did not even feel a strong pull toward her, but he told himself that was okay. He had seen marriages built on far less that turned out just fine. He told himself that love, real love, was something that grew. You gave it time, you gave it effort, and eventually, it settled into something warm and real. So they got married. And Rayan kept his word to himself. He tried. The first few weeks were okay. Not magical, but okay. They were polite to each other. They ate together in the evenings. They talked a little. It was the kind of early marriage life where two strangers are still figuring out how to exist in the same space, without getting in each other's way. But somewhere around the second month, Rayan started noticing things. Small things at first. Nadia's phone would ring, and she would immediately leave the room to take the call. She would come back a few minutes later, phone tucked away, expression a little too calm. He told himself everyone deserved privacy. He did not say anything. Then there were the weekend disappearances. Every other Saturday, Nadia would say she was going to visit her sister. Sometimes she would be gone most of the day. He never questioned it. She was close to her family. That was a good thing. He had no reason to doubt her. But the thing about small signs is that they start to pile up, and at some point, the pile gets tall enough that you can no longer pretend it is not there. The moment everything changed came on a Tuesday afternoon, completely unplanned, completely ordinary. Rayan had taken Nadia's bag to the car because she had asked him to. She was running late and needed it brought down quickly. He set it on the back seat, and as he did, something slipped out of the side pocket and fell onto the car seat. It was a small drawing, done in crayon on a torn piece of paper. It showed two people, one tall, one very small, standing under what looked like a sun, and at the bottom, in the shaky handwriting of a very young child, were the words, "Mama and me." He stood there in the parking area outside his building and stared at that drawing for what felt like a very long time. His first thought was that it was old, maybe something from her childhood, or something a younger sibling had made. He tried to reason his way out of what he was feeling, but the paper was not old. The crayon was bright and fresh, and the handwriting, it was the handwriting of a child who could not have been older than 4 or 5. He went back inside. He put the drawing on the kitchen table, and when Nadia came downstairs and saw it sitting there, her face changed completely. Just for a second, just one unguarded second, he saw something flicker across her eyes. Fear, then a quick scramble to compose herself. "Where did this come from?" he asked. She picked it up carefully. "It must have fallen in by mistake," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were not. "Nadia," he said her name quietly, not with anger, just with a kind of heaviness. "Tell me the truth." There was a long silence. And then, Slowly, she sat down. She had a son. His name was Zaid. He was 4 years old. He lived with her older sister, in a flat about 20 minutes away. She had been visiting him every other Saturday. The calls she took privately, some of them were from her sister, updating her about Zaid, about his health, his moods, what he had eaten, whether he had slept well. Rayan sat across from her and listened to all of it without interrupting. He let her say everything she needed to say. When she finished, the room was very quiet. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. She looked down. "I was scared. I thought if you knew, you would say no. Your family would say no. I didn't want to lose the chance." "The chance," he repeated slowly. "You mean the chance to get married?" "Yes," he nodded. Not in agreement, just in understanding. He was starting to see the full picture now. She had been afraid. He could understand that fear. He was not a cruel person. He knew that a woman raising a child alone carries a weight that most people never fully see. He was not going to sit there and judge her for the difficult position she had been in. But the fear, he could forgive the fear. What he could not so easily accept was the choice she had made because of it. She had chosen to hide Zaid, not for a day or a week, but deliberately. From the very beginning, she had sat across from him at that family gathering and smiled, and said the right things. She had married him with a secret that directly changed the shape of the life he thought he was agreeing to. And she had kept that secret for months. Would have kept it for longer if a child's drawing had not slipped out of a bag. He thought about that a lot in the days that followed. It was not about Zaid. The boy was a 4-year-old child, completely innocent, not part of any of this. Rayan felt no resentment toward him at all. In fact, if anything, he felt a quiet sadness for the boy, who deserved better than to be someone's hidden secret. What troubled Rayan was the pattern. He had been pushed into a marriage he had not fully chosen. He had agreed out of love for his family, not out of his own desire. And in doing so, he had trusted that the people around him were being honest with him. He had trusted that the life he was stepping into was at least the one that had been presented to him. That trust had been broken. Not by accident, by design. He spent 3 quiet days thinking. He did not shout. He did not slam doors. He did not make dramatic speeches. That was not who he was. He just sat with his thoughts and let them settle the way they needed to. On the 4th day, he made his decision. He packed a bag. Not everything, just what he needed for now. He wrote a letter. It was not long. He did not call her terrible things in it. He did not list everything she had done wrong. He simply wrote that he could not build a life on a foundation that had been laid without his knowledge. That he wished her and Zaid well, sincerely. And that he hoped, whatever came next for her, she would choose honesty. Because it was the one thing that could have changed everything. He left the letter on the dining table. He picked up his bag, and he walked out. Nadia found the letter an hour later. She read it twice, and then she sat on the floor of her kitchen and cried in a way she had not cried in years. She had told herself, all those months ago, that once they were married, it would all work out, that he would grow to accept things, that time would soften the truth. She had believed that if she could just get past the beginning, everything else would fall into place. She had been so focused on getting through the door that she had never stopped to think about what it would mean if that door was closed from the inside. The days after he left were some of the hardest she had ever known. Her family, who had known about Zaid all along and had said nothing, were now offering quiet apologies and even quieter judgments. Her mother told her she had handled things poorly. Her sister held Zaid a little tighter and said very little at all. The community around her filled in the rest with whispers. And Rayan? He was simply gone. Not in a dramatic way. He did not post about it or tell the whole world. He moved into a small rented flat, went back to work, and carried on. He grieved, privately, the version of the life he had hoped could exist. He was not heartless. This had cost him something too. But there was something else he felt underneath the grief. Something quieter and steadier. A kind of clarity. For years, he had let other people make decisions about his life. His parents had chosen when he should marry. Nadia had chosen what he should and should not know about the woman he was marrying. Everyone around him had decided what was best for Rayan, except Rayan himself. Walking out of that flat had been the first real decision he had made entirely on his own in a very long time. And even though it was painful, it felt like his. Fully, completely his. He did not know what came next. He was not in a rush to figure it out. But for the first time in years, The next chapter of his life was a blank page, and he was the one holding the pen. As for Nadia, she eventually picked herself up. It took time, and it was not easy. But she made one decision that, perhaps, was the most important one she had ever made. She stopped hiding Zaid. She brought him home. She stopped carrying him like a secret, and started raising him like the gift he actually was. It did not fix everything that had broken, but it was a start. This story does not have a fairy tale ending. No dramatic reunion. No moment where everything is forgiven and the music swells. Life is not usually like that. What it has instead is something more real. Two people who each, in their own painful way, learned what it truly costs to build a life on things that are not true, and what it feels like, finally, to stop.